Sensationally silver, because you are.
Welcome, everyone, to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age, people who are going to bring you information, inspiration, and validation. Join us. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, conversations with extraordinary, ordinary persons of age. My guest today is Julia Loggins. She's been my guest before, and I hope she'll be my guest many times because this woman knows so much that is relevant to our lives, those of us who are persons of age. So, welcome, Julia.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me back, Robin.
Oh gosh, my pleasure. Okay, so I've told my listeners and my viewers that we deal with taboos on this.
Yes,
And
yes,
it doesn't mean bad things, it simply means
right.
things that aren't discussed in public. So we're discussing something in public that isn't a typical topic. Today, I'll let you introduce it, Julia, because this was Julia's idea about something really, really important for persons of age. Go, Julia.
Okay, so we're going to talk about constipation because as we age, our colon loses muscle tone, just like the whole rest of our body. But that does not mean that we are stuck with constipation, not going to the bathroom every day. And what I hear, I'm 69, and what I hear from my clients who don't go to the bathroom every day is that their doctor is telling them it's normal to go once a week, to go every 2 or 3 days. And then they're given either a laxative, which is addictive, stops your colon from working, or you have horrible, embarrassing trips to the bathroom that you don't want to tell anybody about because you feel you can't go anywhere because you took a laxative. Um, and or they give them something like Miralax, which is a high fiber because you're hearing a lot about high fiber. And that, if you already have a sluggish colon, can make everything worse. But there's almost nothing more important to our health, maybe hydration, besides going to the bathroom every single day. And as we age, more and more people deal with constipation. And when you were saying that this is something we don't talk about, it's so true. Unless people out there have grandkids who are constantly talking about, their poop, right? So unless you have that in your life and you get to see what a 2-year-old or a 3 or 4-year-old, how much comes out in the bathroom, you kind of forget how much waste we have in us and how much should be coming out.
Julia, before we get to the solution, which I know you're going to give us, let's talk about some of the problems that are created when we're not, quote, regular. Okay, what happens in the body?
Yes, exactly. So if we're not regular, that means that we are not flushing out the toxins in our body. And after all, we are now, all of us, living in an environment, in a world that our bodies were not designed to live in because we come in contact with 2,500 toxins or chemicals a day. Even our grandparents were not living in this world. So it's 1 or 2 generations where the environment has devolved. And it takes thousands of years for any organism to mutate, to adapt to change. And there is no way our bodies have adapted. Hence, the incredible amount of disease, suffering, inflammatory gut issues that I deal with and that I see in people. So we have to go to the bathroom every day to get this waste out of us. And if we aren't eliminating from our colon every day, our liver, which is the main organ of our body that helps keep us clean, has no hope of getting rid of its toxins. There's just no way. Because if we're not going to the bathroom every day, no other organ can flush. And it's even more important now than it was at any other time in history. And because of processed foods, fried foods, junk food, fast food, people are just eating food that is not going anywhere. And it's making us sick and depressed. So that's a big piece of this. So I have clients who don't even know why they're feeling such depression, but it's the level of toxicity because these chemicals affect our mind. And so something as simple as going to the bathroom every day can solve so many problems, but people don't get good information.
All right, so let's give them some good information because
Okay,
that's what it's all about here,
what
right?
we're here to do, right? So anybody out there, number one, if you are laxative dependent, I see lots of people who are laxative dependent. That means you can't go to the bathroom without your laxative because you've been taking it a long time. And you can heal that. It's important to heal it because as you are probably realizing, you're going to the bathroom less and less every day, even though you're taking this laxative. Laxative dependency is a big deal for people of age. It's common. Um, and then and then the thing to do to heal is to not only stay hydrated, because we all know we're supposed to drink a lot of water, right? But if you don't put electrolytes in your water, which is, you can find them sugar-free in the grocery store. Gatorade, for instance, is a common, one of the first mass marketed electrolyte supplements, which you don't want to take because it is full of sugar, which is ironically very dehydrating. But it was just a nod to the understanding of how important electrolytes are in our body. And if you can get in the health food store, in the grocery store, a sugar-free electrolyte and put it in your water, you'll absorb the water instead of just peeing it out. Because I have lots of clients who say, I drink a gallon of water every day. How could I be dehydrated? Because they don't have electrolytes in their water and they're peeing it out. And so, and the part of the body that's most affected by dehydration is the colon. So that's the first line of defense is hydration with some type of sugar-free electrolyte. There's lots of brands out there that have a taste to them. So if you like a fruity flavor, lemon lime flavor, you can find that. My website has lots of brand names that are, lots of ways to find information on it. Of course, people can always contact me and ask me. But really, it's honestly anything you like. That's number one. And then number two is, of course, to be eating some fresh whole foods every day. And as we age, so many people are eating more and more processed foods because they live alone and it's cooking isn't as required as when there's family members around. So if you eat, you know, cooked vegetables, whole fruits, and honestly, a lot of salads can be constipating. So that can be confusing for people who think, oh, I should just eat more salad. If you struggle with constipation, raw food is constipating. It's not unhealthy. It's just that kind of fiber, if you're struggling with constipation, can make it worse. So you're better off with cooked vegetables. You're better off with whole fruits. Um, and and then instead of a laxative, I created a product just because as a colon therapist of 40 years who couldn't find anything on the market for my clients that would allow them that they could safely take every day, that wasn't addictive, that wasn't irritating or inflammatory. In other words, if you have diverticulitis or diverticulosis or colitis, you can take it. And it's my Happy Gut Cleanse. It's a natural formula that is made to be taken every day. And these high fiber products like Miralax, the problem with them is for people with constipation or an inflammatory gut issue, IBS, colitis, anything and more people have these problems as they age, then those products can cause you can get even worse constipation because that fiber just doesn't move through you. There's just too much blockage that's already going on. And as a colon therapist of 40 years, I have never had a client with an inflammatory gut issue like diverticulitis or colitis who does not have 10 to 30 pounds of waste in their colon. You hear people hear that, and maybe you've heard it and you're like, okay, I can't believe that. Like we've all heard the story that Elvis Presley died with 50 pounds of waste in his colon. He actually did. It was actually listed as cause of death. Now, of course, many things contributed to that, right? He unfortunately was given too many painkillers. But so many people in our audience are struggling with pain. And even things like Advil are constipating. So it doesn't have to be that you're on a strong painkiller to have something that's creating constipation in your life. You may just need Advil for arthritis or something that's, basically over the counter and not even realizing it's creating a constipating condition. So to take a product that's safe, natural, that you can take every day could be something so important that you're doing for your health, your energy, and your mood. To me, mood is everything. I mean, when I know that I'm always talking to people about their health, but I could really take the word health out because that's kind of a boring word, and put in mood. Because to me, especially as we age, how we our optimism, our level of joy, our resilience, our feeling that life is worth living has so much to do with our mood. And even if we have a little pain here and there, and who doesn't when you're our age, right? If your mood is resilient and good, and you're like, okay, so I just don't feel like I'm 20, but it's a good day. And maybe I won't run 10 miles like I used to, but I'm gonna go for a nice walk. Okay, that's good. But if you wake up and you're just kind of depressed and you feel yucky, that so much can be because of waste in the body and not in the mind.
So, Julia, what kind of turnaround time are we talking about?
Yeah, great question. Do you know, as far as adding liquids to adding liquid, drinking aloe vera juice, which is awesome for the gut, and it's a safe, natural, comes from nature, made from the aloe vera plant, soothing for ulcers, soothing for the gut, has a slightly laxative quality, so you can add that to your life. And then if you started using my Happy Gut Cleanse, anywhere between a week and 2 weeks, you should see some level of change. And I've had clients that have a faster turnaround time. Now, if you've been dealing with chronic constipation, or all of a sudden you're like, I've been going to the bathroom every 3 days for 20 years. This is a long-term problem. And honestly, that's really common, really, really common. Then it's going to take longer. But I've had clients who were laxative dependent for 20 years heal their laxative dependency. And the reason we want to do that is it affects our mood, our energy, and our zest for life.
So, once upon a time, I worked with a woman who was a chiropractor, and she would talk to people about hydration and drinking water. And they would say to her, "Oh, I drink lots of tea, lots of coffee, blah, 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 blah." And she'd say, "No, no, 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 no. Only water does what water does." Would you agree with that, Julia?
Well, I will say that coffee, and especially coffee, is dehydrating. I'm not anti-coffee. You can't count it as a liquid. Herbal teas, yes, you can count herbal teas as your liquid. In fact, you can count especially herbal iced teas, which you might, because I like to make water interesting for clients. My goal is to get water into people, and not everyone loves drinking it. But herbal iced teas like a peppermint or a chamomile, a ginger iced tea without sugar, right? Because sugar is dehydrating. So use something else in your tea. I think to me, those are hydrating. Obviously, soft drinks, which we don't really want to drink, but just to say them out loud, they're not hydrating. But I do think there's variations of things. Black tea is also dehydrating, but green tea is not. Matcha is not, which has a little bit of caffeine. So for people that want to shift from, maybe you have a cup of coffee in the morning, but you want to try to do something healthier as the day goes on, then you can try another kind of an herbal tea. But yes, and if you put a flavored sugar-free electrolyte in your water, you might actually enjoy your water more. That's why I think sugar-free electrolytes with a little flavor can make water enticing for everybody out there that isn't a water drinker.
So I would imagine, and I think
Yes.
I saw this with my mother, that these kinds of problems with elimination can severely restrict how free you are to live your life. I mean, I remember she wouldn't travel far from home the last maybe 15 years of her life. And I think it was very much related to not being able to count on her body, not betraying her somewhere out in public.
Yes, so true.
Julia, what about the other side for persons of age where the bowels are too loose? You
That,
know,
oh, and that's so common. And for some people who have something called IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which often also can happen more as we age, it goes back and forth on it, which without warning. You might be constipated, you might have diarrhea. If that sounds like you out there and this you're relating, so this is something and it called inflammatory bowel condition, and you just don't know which you're going to wake up with. And of course, that completely restricts life. And it also makes a person, makes us so self-conscious and feel bad about our body, which is already challenging to feel good about because after all, we're aging. Probably something is getting our attention every morning. And so to have this on top of it, and then to have someone call and say, "Oh, I'd love to see you for lunch." And you're thinking, I don't know. I'm afraid to leave the house. I either haven't gone to the bathroom or I've been going all morning and I can't leave the toilet. And there are also um, surgeries that, that people are more prone to as we get older, abdominal type surgeries that create scar tissue in the abdomen. And then all of a sudden, people who never had issues before are having issues. Um, General anesthesia can cause long-term constipation. So there are things that nobody tells us. Even having dental work and then the anesthetics involved can cause constipation. I mean, these are things that as we age, we're having happen to us all the time. This is just a matter of life. We're getting our teeth worked on, we're getting a mole removed. So we're either taking a painkiller, even if it's short term, right? And then our bowels are working less and less. So I'm amazingly, my product, the Happy Gut Cleanse, I didn't realize that it was also a colon balancer, meaning it could slow things down. And I think that's not because I'm so brilliant. It's really just because herbs themselves, when they're put together in the right way, they just do what needs to be done for the body. So if you're struggling out there with diarrhea, and this is true for herbal masters have said this forever, but that herbs do what the body needs them to do. They have a wisdom beyond us. So if you are struggling with diarrhea, or say you just go back and forth, then the Happy Gut Cleanse can still stabilize things for you. And if you are, there's foods that of course are going to make these things worse. Whole nuts and seeds, super constipating, a common snack that we're told are healthy. They're either very constipating, and then the other piece is they're really irritating to the colon. So they can cause irritation, or they can cause, constipation or diarrhea. Things like popcorn, super irritating. And my diverticulitis audience has just astronomically grown in the last 10 years. So diverticulitis is a condition where the pockets of the colon become impacted, inflamed, and then infected. And people are told this is an incurable condition. It isn't. And I think that's so important for our audience to understand that so many of these things that we're told can't be fixed actually can be. And even as we age, it's not like you're too old to be healthy. No one is ever too old to be healthy.
Okay, so I know, Julia, because I've had to do this in my own life,
Yeah.
that changing one's diet, oh, there's resistance to that because
Yeah.
we have traditions around certain foods. There are comfort, there are
Yeah.
solace, and even though the effects can be devastating, there's still that resistance. I don't want to give up my whatever.
I know.
How do you deal with that with clients who are very sick and yet don't want to go there? It's like, oh no, couldn't I just take a pill? Couldn't I just do this other thing?
Well, especially because that's what we're told by most of our health practitioners, that you can just take a pill and it'll be fixed, even if that's only today it's going to be fixed and then tomorrow it's worse. And um, and so, you know, generally, why do people that I work with make changes? Because they feel horrible. I mean, unfortunately, the answer is suffering promotes growth. And we don't want any of our audience to be suffering, but I know in my own life, okay, what's created a huge change in my life? Because what I was doing stopped working to the level that I was no longer living a life worth living. And I think the thing about that is when we age, we think we're just going to accept that as you're old. That's what our doctors tell us. I mean, I had a client yesterday and her doctor said, "What do you expect? You're not going to go to the bathroom every day. You're 70." And we're told is totally told to us all the time. Oh, you're not going to be able to get up off the floor by yourself. You're 75. What do you expect? We're constantly told this. So we just have lost faith in our own body's ability to change. When we're 25 or 30, I'm not saying we don't resist change. I certainly did. But at least I had the belief, in my youth and and also our hormones were kicking in and driving us forward. And when we're older and we've lost some of that, we buy into that we should just keep adapting and making our life smaller and smaller.
So in a way, we're really talking about hope or lack of hope.
Yes, right back there. It's beautiful. Exactly right. The hope that we can recover and reclaim chunks of the life we had, or the fact that we're supposed to just be resigned to staying home, not meeting a friend last minute for lunch, um, not getting to play with, not getting to accept an invitation that we really wanted to, and we're just embarrassed about what our body's going to do. Yeah, that.
Okay, so there is hope because what
Yes.
Julia is describing, folks, isn't something that's impossible and it isn't something that's expensive. And it isn't even something that takes a long, long, long time, but it does take some willingness, some discipline. And, Julia, you were talking about what what fuels change, the gift of desperation.
Yeah.
We get desperate enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're willing to just do it, try
Yeah.
it.
Just
Yeah.
try it. Yeah. And also having something that we want to do it for. I mean, I don't believe that few people, let's say, there's those exceptions, but most of us don't make a change just for the glory of making the change. It's like there's a carrot out there. When we're young, it's because, we want to go out on a date. So we want to be healthier. We want our bodies to look good and feel good. And as we age, we lose those places of purpose. So we lose that impetus, and that sense of that there's more for us out there. And as we care for ourselves, we can create that level of energy. But what I want to say to everyone is, you know, it's there's always that saying, that youth is lost, youth is lost on the young. But actually, when our bodies are working, and that's a big thing for people of our age, right? When our bodies are working, we all know the beauty of this time of life. but I'm 69, so I'm not saying that cavalierly like a 30-year-old would say it. Um, because I know what I'm talking about. It's like, I fell down, I broke my shoulder and didn't heal as fast, but as I would have when I was 20. But it's like, but when we know that that we can heal. And I feel like because we're told constantly to adapt to our limitation, what I'm saying is you don't have to keep adapting, and change is possible. It's like even tiny changes, like the sugar-free electrolytes, the adding more water. These actually, if you think of these as tiny, then one little tiny shift can make a big improvement. And then, as you know, like that fosters the energy and the impetus to like take that farther. So walking 1 block becomes 2 and 2 blocks becomes 3. Well, this is internal health. That's the same thing. Like the idea that, wow, maybe I'm not just stuck in my house dealing with, living on my throne forever, and I can get out and have, be of service or meet a friend or just honestly enjoy this beautiful chapter of our lives.
I know one of the things I hear over and over again from the people that I interview, and all of them have to be over 60 in order to be
Yeah.
on this podcast, is the gift of freedom that comes to us as we get older. But unless our bodies are at least working as well as they possibly can, that freedom's very limited, very inhibited. So making the most of the gifts of maturity
Yes.
involves taking extra measures to make sure we keep this vehicle that we're in healthy. I know I've said this before on this podcast. I'm just going to repeat it because I love this. I always think of my body as a classic car.
Oh, I
It's
love
been around
that.
a long time. Yeah. And that's what gives it the value because it's been around a long time. It's got that look, it's whatever. That's classic. It also means, like any classic car owner will tell you, a lot of upkeep, a lot of
Right.
maintenance, and some special fuels, some special things that you have to add in to keep this thing running. And in my appreciation of this vehicle that I have, I need to give it that. I
Yeah.
need to honor this body that's carried this consciousness around for so many years, 79 in my case. I need to honor it with giving it what it needs,
It's so
you know?
true. And we weren't given permission to do that when we were in our generations. We weren't, especially women, but I'll say men as well, because men were conditioned to focus on their work. Women were conditioned to focus on fixing everyone around us, as if we could even possibly do that, and caring for everyone around us. So nobody really got any message that we are allowed to focus on ourselves, care for our health. And maybe that, even though our doctors have given all of us really valuable things, and we certainly need them, that when it comes to the gut, there's a real limitation on what your doctor's toolbox is. And your doctor will definitely be there for you in acute situations. But and ironically, I've had a lot of clients who become, they're so constipated, they have an acute situation. They go to the emergency room with an impacted bowel. This is not uncommon. So, but until then, the doctor doesn't have a big toolbox for anything gut related. We can't blame them, but we just have to know that we're going to fix things ourselves and that we can, and just little tiny things.
So, Julia, before we stop today,
Okay.
tell people about your podcast because, as I said, Julia is a fount of information and she gives it on this podcast, I mean, unstintingly.
So you can find me at my on my website, cleansingforenergy.com. And of course, you'll have it here. And there's a ton of free information on there. And I actually just and I'm also available on social media, on Instagram and on TikTok, where I have a live group that meets. every Saturday and Sunday. It's funny, when I started on TikTok, I thought it was only for people in their 20s. I had no idea. And most of the people who come on my live interactive, which is what I love about my live interactives, which you can do on a platform like TikTok, is that so I would say a majority are our age, which means maybe their kids got them on maybe their kids, figured it out for them. It's pretty easy app to install and to start to play with. But it's definitely not for people just in their 20s. There's lots of places to find me, and there's a lot of free information on my website. And I do personal consults all the time, just helping people up level their health and deal with simple things that can turn into really serious things if we don't deal with them.
And if you do deal with them, they can turn your life around.
Give you your life back. Like you said, give you joy and freedom. And we want and deserve it at our age. We have earned it.
Yeah. Julia, thank you so much.
Robin, thank you so much.
Oh, I just can imagine all these people out there saying, thank God I heard this.
Thank you. I feel like, that's an important subject.
Oh, it's really important.
People that are aging, it's so huge. It's so defining. And it's funny because nobody is talking about it. And it is, like you said, if you're having diarrhea, if you're having constipation and you stop travel, you don't meet a friend for lunch, you start making your world small, and bathroom habits are an embarrassing thing to talk about. Um, Ironically, because of gut health being more trendy and young people talking about it online, young people are becoming more comfortable talking about these things. Our generation is still
There's
stuck.
not much that they won't talk about, but there's a lot we're afraid to talk about because those,
Yeah.
in my business, we always say that the unstated rules are the most powerful. So it's
Ah,
just in the atmosphere. People tense up and you, I'm not supposed to go there. And you don't even know you've made that decision.
no, and like you said, it's a taboo. I mean, it's like people could talk about sex all day.
Now they can. Yeah.
But even people like of age talking about sex, like that's not even that uncommon anymore. But talking about poop, no way. Nobody over 4 talks about poop. So, and nobody does. So it's important. It's so important. If we talk about what goes in, we don't talk about what comes out or whether or not it is coming out. So I thank you to your audience for the grace and patience of hanging in with us today. And I hope everyone got something of value.
Yes. And I believe probably everybody did. So thank you all for being with us today. We'll see you next time. And Julia's going to be my guest again and again because she's the best. Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.
Sensationally Silver, A State of Mind, is sponsored by Sensationally Silver, a complete hair care product line created especially for people with hair like ours, naturally gray and white hair. Sensationally Silver products can be found exclusively at sensationallysilver.com.
Sensationally silver.